Now, before I tell you the crux of this, which is really the gorilla story, did I tell you before?
No, go right ahead.
Okay, so I asked this doctor to be a plaintiff because I knew she was sympathetic, and I knew that she was very sympathetic to my arguments with the governor and everything. And she said, well, look, I want to meet with you, but Tuesday, or I wanted to meet with her on a Wednesday. I was going maybe to Iowa, but I wanted to stop in Missouri, talk to her about this, and I would just need her. We could do it very quick and easy. So she said, but I might be at the zoo. I said, what are you doing at the zoo? And she said, well, I'm doing an abortion on the gorilla. And I said, what? Why you? And she was very insulted. Well, I'm the best in the state. This is a $300,000. She's worth $300,000, and I have to do, I'm the best, and we want to preserve her complete health and fertility. I said, you're doing this? Yeah. But I wasn't really supposed to tell anybody, but this was kind of like weird. You're like, really? Like, I didn't know this happened. So I said, well, why do you not know the day? And she said, well, because I put in laminaria to stretch the cervix. I don't know when I'm going to go there, because what I have to do is I'm trying to take it out intact. We discovered this pregnancy very late. It's really late. I said, wait. And so she said, I have to kind of maybe shrink the head and try to get this out intact. It's a 300-pound gorilla, $300,000 worth gorilla. And I thought, wait, she's doing a partial birth abortion on a gorilla with state funds in order to preserve its fertility, which is more than any women in the Eighth Circuit can get. And I said, excuse me, why is it late? Like, I thought these people watched gorillas a lot. She said, well, it's very interesting, she said. I said, why are you doing the abortion, first of all? And she said, because it's a boy. I thought, oh, Jesus, a sex selection abortion on a gorilla. And I said, why? She said, well, because they can't afford it. Teenagers just can't live with gorilla families, boy teenagers. And if it's a boy, they'd have to have all these other facilities. And I said, well, I understand about the teenagers. I have two myself. That they can't reside in, they're too disruptive and testosterone driven. But they want her to have other gorilla babies, but not this boy. So I thought, oh my God, this is partial birth sex selection abortion. I said, well, why didn't you discover it earlier? Why do you have to go through this? She said, well, it's very interesting. It's because she's oversexed. And I said, excuse me? She said, well, gorillas, once they get pregnant, they quit having sex. But this one had sex all the time with a couple of male gorillas. She was sexing all the time, fucking all the time. I said, wait, you're doing a partial birth abortion based on sex selection for an oversexed female gorilla paid for by the state. She says, yeah, but we can't let the government, blah, blah. So I'm just amazed, and I don't know what to do with this. And I talked to my head of litigation, who was a strict vegetarian. He said, oh my God, she didn't give informed consent. Should we try to get an injunction for the gorilla? And I said, Simon, no, we don't want to get an injunction for that. No, that's not our strategy. We can't do this. But I'm just kind of blown away by this whole thing. Like, how could this happen that this gorilla is getting so much medical care funded by the state to preserve her fertility? Obviously, it's the safest way. In this circuit where all this is going up the Supreme Court about women. And I can't say anything about it. So I fly wherever I'm flying, but I'm meeting also Myron Britt. I said, Myron, I feel so bad that the women in your circuit aren't getting the same constitutional rights as gorillas. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, in the Eighth Circuit, they're doing an partial birth abortion on a female gorilla. They say is worth $300,000. I say, I know women aren't worth $300,000, but I said, in your circuit, gorillas have more rights than women. He said, oh, that's terrible. I didn't know this about it. Gorillas shouldn't have more rights in this circuit. I've always said women should have rights, and rights against men, but certainly against gorillas. And he was like very serious, even though he had a good sense of humor. He was like, well. I said, well, you can't really tell anybody, but this is so absurd, don't you think? Well, of course, he told everybody on the circuit. Who wouldn't tell the gorilla story? So I knew that it would get to every circuit judge, including the conservative ones. Myron couldn't stop a good story. And here we're getting partial birth abortion on gorillas. I thought, this is the key to winning the Supreme Court. This is the key to getting the Eighth Circuit. And indeed, it did. So our major victory had a lot to do, or at least was instrumental, on the gorilla.